Well, hello there. Welcome to Loose Lips, CTV's weekly current affairs show for women. Well, joining me on tonight's program are three very special ladies. Welcome to the Reverend Sheena Dixon, Spirit Life Coach Phyllis Brown, and Family Support Counsellor Neil Gwyn Kulpe. Welcome, ladies. Lovely to see you. On tonight's show, our panellists will be discussing spirituality and what it means to them. Well, I need to say at this point that I'm actually a card-carrying, open-minded atheist, second generation no less, and I'm perfectly comfortable with that. But I know that many of us feel that something bigger than us exists, because as a region we all witnessed the spirit and the compassion of Cantabrians after the earthquakes. Not that you would know it from Hope and Wire, which has certainly received mixed responses locally. So the compassion and the warmth and goodness that we saw in our fellow neighbours after the quakes brought the region closer together, and it helped us through those really dark times. And it's such a shame that we're not able to capture that moment forever. But life and insurance wrangles have got in the way of an incredible life-defining moment. So I'm going to be asking my special guest today about their experiences since the earthquakes. So Neil Gwyn, hello, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Tell me a little bit about your very interesting experiences.
Yeah, and it's hard to keep it really short, but I think, you know, when I came to my office at the CTV building on the 22nd of February when the earthquake struck, I had no idea how much that would change my life and influence my life.
Indeed.
To what I'm doing now.
And you were working with?
I was working with relationship services,
right.
And we were all on the top floor. Yes. And yes, and you know, I think the story is well known to Cantabrians at least, you know, and we came down with the house, like we crashed down, pancaked. All 18 of us were rescued, and we lost one colleague.
Yes.
And for me, it's an absolute miracle that we actually survived. We had a little baby in there as well, an 9-month-old baby.
Incredible.
Came out, no scratch. And so that was really the beginning of quite a transformative time, you know, and I'm feeling that has really, powered me on to live more spiritually inside myself, but also to, because I became aware what helped me, how I could recover from it and not get traumatized, really. And what helped me was that I had a tribe around me, that I could talk to people, that I felt, you know, I could access spirituality. I could talk to my angels and guides, and you know, and be in that space. But most of all, you know, it was it's for me a prompting to really help people now.
Yes.
And I'm a grief counselor, so
yes.
I'm helping people who are dying or facing death, loss, grief, all of it.
I see.
And I would say hope is probably, that comes to mind, you know, to actually kind of bring hope, give hope in a desperate place.
Amazing.
You know?
And do you find was it for you a complete sort of reawakening and was it a complete change of life for you, or was it a reawakening of things and experiences that you had already had?
Good question. I think it was a remembering and a reminder, because I've always been spiritual my whole life. I have had spiritual experiences, and I'm regarding myself as being spirit most of all.
Yes.
Most and foremost, being spirit in a human body. And so, but it was a reminder, and actually a beautiful reminder to me that I am not alone in that moment, and that there is help around.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
I felt cocoon, you know, like in a cocoon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So really a defining moment. Defining
yes.
time.
Yeah.
And it's seen perhaps a consolidation of a way forward for you.
Absolutely,
yes?
Absolutely. And it's and I, you know, I just took a lot of strength from it. I gathered strength, and I feel like, you know, now whatever I'm doing with other people, whether at work or in my family or in my community in Pura Bay, whatever I'm doing, I bring in yeah, that energy, you know,
do.
I've survived.
You have.
You know,
You
so
have.
I survived.
To survive to tell the tale
I know,
and survive to
I
do
know,
so
and I'm
much
so grateful
good.
for life.
Yes.
So grateful.
Thank you for sharing that.
You're most welcome.
And I have the Reverend Sheena here with me.
Hello.
Hello, and lovely to have you on board.
Lovely to
and
be here.
firstly, can I say condolences and sympathies for the very sad loss of Linda Patterson over the weekend. Yes,
Yes, thank you very much.
such a shock.
It was a shock.
And she, tell us, for those of us that don't know, tell us about her a little bit. She was the
Linda was the Dean of the Christchurch Cathedral
That's
here,
right.
yeah, the transitional cathedral as it is now.
yes,
Linda was also my friend. She was deeply spiritual.
yes.
She would have loved to have been a part of this programme.
Oh, we would have loved to have her.
She was my
Yes.
friend. I loved her dearly. She leaves a big gap in many people's lives.
Right.
So I'm looking upon this experience as a tribute to Linda's life, her faith, and her deep spirituality.
Well, what a lovely idea for tonight to be. Thank you, Sheena. And tell us a little bit about you and what you're doing. You have a lovely accent. Where are you from?
I'm from the east coast of Dundee.
Ah,
I came to Christchurch for 6 months, and here I am 7.5 years later.
great. We haven't lost you.
Nope, not going to lose me for a little while yet.
Good.
I'm staying. I'm staying because people need the church at this moment.
Yes.
They need what we represent. They need us because of their losses and their feelings of loss of control. They need us because we are called to be with them.
Yes.
Yeah? That's our calling.
And you feel
That's
that-
our vocation. God
Yeah.
speaks to me in that way.
Yeah. And you're feeling it even stronger now
I'm
than
feeling
ever.
it even
are you?
stronger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell me about the parish that you were with when the earthquake happened. What was lost?
We lost our buildings.
Yes.
We lost the church. Our church fell down in Linwood. It just collapsed. And the other one in Aranui, we aren't able to use that. We were able to use it until the December one, and then the December one brought a lot of stress cracks, so it falls beneath the denomination's safe level, so we're not allowed to use that. So we use either the manse, which is my home, or the marquee, which is marvellous.
A marquee. 101 uses for a marquee, and now it's a
Absolutely.
church.
We can't go there in the winter, it's too cold.
Right.
But we have wonderful colleagues around who offer us hospitality. Come and
Yes.
share your services with us. Come and be with us.
Yes.
You know. So whilst I understand what you're saying about we want to hang on to that moment of camaraderie and collaboration and being with each other, I feel that has not changed. I still feel that feeling, that sense of we're all in this together still.
Yes,
You know?
yes.
We're all Cantabrians, even though we're not. We're all Cantabrians, and we're all facing this in
Yes.
this.
Yes.
And it does mean to me that this is my place.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I'll continue to stay here until God decides otherwise.
Oh, well, lovely. You know, and we are so lucky to have you.
Okay.
And thank you for coming in tonight to talk to us.
I'm going to enjoy this.
It's wonderful, and a tribute to Linda. And down there we have Phyllis.
Yes,
Hello,
hello.
Phyllis. Very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
And lovely to have you here. And tell us a little about you. You're a spiritual...
Life coach.
Life
yes,
coach,
I am
yes.
qualified as a Transform Your Life coach. And I do work as a spiritual medium, a psychic medium as well. So people come to me on lots of different levels, of personal awareness.
Yes.
And with the whole quake episode, our family was brought here. We were just guided to come here. I told my husband to keep his eyes peeled, and the opportunity would arrive on the doorstep.
And of course, you've got a very interesting accent too.
Yes.
That sounds just a little bit similar to Sheena here. So
Yes, I'm
whereabouts
slightly
from?
further up. I'm from Aberdeen,
From Aberdeen,
in Scotland.
great.
And sure enough, you know, he found a customer of his in Christchurch who wanted to sell his business, and Michael bought it. And you know, we had a beautiful life. We still have a beautiful life, and our lovely business. But like most people, well, for us, our quake started in the September quake. So that changed overnight. We went to bed quite happy on Friday night, and by Saturday morning, everything was wrecked, everything was gone. So it's, well, how do you start? Where do you start from? And so for my personal journey, what that brought up for me was the lack of a father figure. So I had to deal
Right.
with my own unfinished grief process. My father died when I was 4.
Oh, I see.
And my husband went into deep shock and he couldn't cope, and so I was left to cope. So it was just a really transforming time. I had to not look at the accountants as the father figure and not look at my lawyer as the father figure, and you know, they'd all say, get on with
Yeah.
it, Phyllis, you can do it. So I had to really, really dig deep. I had to dig deep and come to terms with, you know, I could cope with this situation. And that really brought in lots of clients who were also looking for that thing, that inspiration to save them. I was looking to be saved. I didn't want to deal with it. I wanted to hand it over to someone.
Were you interested in yourself, that's the response that you had?
It was very stark,
Yeah.
very, very stark. I just remember being in the kitchen and feeling like a 2-year-old. Thinking, I just cannot do this. I need my father. Where is he? How dare he not be here?
Oh, how
For
amazing.
this tragic time.
Yeah.
And so it was a really transforming time, and then helping people come to terms who, yes, their life, they went to bed one night and the following day it just was not the same, and it would never be the same.
Yes, indeed.
Never be the same.
Yes.
So where do you start?
Where do you start?
How do you then go on from that?
Rebuilding, moving on.
Everything.
As I said, that journey, it's you're on a journey, it's a different journey to the one that it was before. Maybe it's a clearer, more concise message that you've got out of it too. Thank you for sharing some of your stories. Lovely to hear them, and we'll be talking a little bit more about your different takes on the concept of spirituality as we go on this evening. So coming up, spirituality is everywhere, but is it the elephant in the room for the traditional media? Stay with us. All right, well, welcome back to Loose Lips. And we are discussing the bigger-than-life subject of spirituality today. So we talk a lot about social media on Loose Lips and how it's affecting all of our lives. And I have noticed lately that I see a lot of inspirational messages on Facebook, you know, quoting Buddha and the Dalai Lama, and even quotes from great leaders such as Sir Edmund Hillary and even Richard Branson. So sharing these messages seems to indicate that we are spiritual people wanting to do good, to be inspirational and to achieve greater things. And in the traditional media, understanding our spirituality is not often investigated, and the focus always seems to be on the weird, the wacky and the paranormal elements connecting to the vast subject matter. And it's the same for the church really, which has trouble getting its message out through all the bad headlines about wayward priests and religious fundamentalism. So I'm going to ask my panel, why do you think that the media chooses to focus on the sort of the weird, the wacky, the unusual, rather than spirituality in general and what it means to people? What do you think?
I think it is the weird and the wacky. They think that it is an instant audience. But actually, I think that's a very small audience. I think people are looking to be inspired, or they do want that self-help, not necessarily the ghost-busting type thing, but we are all looking of, well, how can we support ourselves? And it's maybe just a bit bland or a bit boring. So it is all the negative aspects, because that's got the shock factor, which is sad. That's really sad.
Shock factor.
Yeah,
That's
I
it,
think that's a great. Sorry.
Sensationalism.
That's
Sensationalism.
right.
isn't it?
Yes.
Does it sell newspapers to say people are deepening their spirituality and this is how they're doing it? Maybe not, but something else, something weird and wacky, something else.
Sounds better.
May
Yeah,
well sell
absolutely. I agree with
newspaper
you.
or
It's such
media.
a shame, though, isn't
it
it?
is a
That we've
shame.
all got tuned into this sort of media brainwashing that if it isn't sensational, it's not worth reading or it's not worth knowing about. You know?
But what's behind it is, a real true craving. I think you said that too. Like in us as human beings, I think to have spiritual food or food for the soul or whatever. Just go beyond what we understand as the daily life or the material life. So I think there is internally in us, or in myself, I just speak for myself, a craving for, I would always call it for myself, spiritual alignment, to find back into my spiritual center, really.
Yes.
Rather than getting sidetracked and, snowed under with,
negative baggage.
Negative baggage,
Yes.
or making money, or have to. You
Yeah,
know?
and I call it,
Yeah.
well, I don't call it, but I mean, it could be referred to as that soul food thing.
Soul food, yeah.
You know,
That's it,
and
yeah.
it is food
Yeah.
for the soul, isn't it? And I quite often think, and I have to read the papers a lot for my work, you know, where are the positive stories on the front page? Where, oh where? Why are, anything positive is just buried, it's always tiny and it's just
Tiny, yeah.
buried, isn't it?
I think good news doesn't sell, whereas the bad news does sell. Now that comes back to what we were talking about
sexy?
earlier.
Is it
It's not sexy.
Is it sexy?
Yeah.
But we do have to, and someone along the line has to surely acknowledge that we are spiritual beings having human experiences.
Yes.
You know, Teilhard de Chardin said this centuries ago, so why has that been lost? It's a question for the church.
And it's how it
a question.
relates to real life and what we're doing that interests me as well. You know, the good works that are going on, they are often not getting the focus either, are they? Because they're being overshadowed by the negative stories. And for me, as an atheist, I always find it very interesting, the concept of doing good works is often considered to be the domain of religious institutions or religious groups or churches. And I think for me, I found it really interesting enough that I wanted to contribute to a campaign that pointed out that atheists can care too. Yeah.
It's a nonsense to suggest that an atheist could not have a spiritual experience any more than anyone else.
Exactly, but also more than that even, just the very literal concept of caring. Now, I don't know whether we've got the image somewhere, Doug, to show of the bus back campaign that I actually contributed to, which this is why I call myself a card-carrying atheist. Why believe in a God? Just be good for goodness sake. And I found that very interesting because there are so many people who are atheists or maybe haven't decided who could do so much good in the community and should do, as far as I'm concerned, because I think, you know, if you're alive and you're a healthy adult, you owe that to the community and to society to give back, don't you? And that's what I always say to people is try and find some group you could be aligned with and contribute, and so that you can give back.
It's called altruism.
Yeah,
It's
that's
called
right.
altruism.
Yeah, and the joy comes through the giving. You know, I
Joy.
think that's what it is. You know?
And it's
not
getting
a
back to what I was saying
task.
earlier about
Yeah.
soul food, because that's how you make soul food for yourself, surely, is by giving back, you know?
I think there was a concept many years ago in terms of formal religion, let's say, that you could buy your way into God's good books. You know, so there
Right.
was, you know, people would buy a pew for the church and have their name on it. It
Yeah.
was buying their way into God's good books. But it's, and that's a really, I've just heard myself say that's a really funny turn of phrase. Whereas now we can just contribute on whatever level. Whether it is, my husband happened to help a lady, she was short $5 at the supermarket. He said, oh, here's $5. Get your shopping.
Fantastic.
Get your shopping. So, you know, that, and she will remember that, and hopefully she'll pay that forward. She'll pay that $5 to somebody else. So it can be a nano thing, a tiny thing.
A tiny
you
thing.
don't have to have the big gestures.
But gee, doesn't it give you the greatest feeling when you do it?
Absolutely.
It's better than any gift, any monetary or physical gift in the world, I think.
Because spirituality is kind of, you know, I think it's being spirit, isn't it?
It is.
It's being in the spirit
Of things.
of goodness, you know.
It
Being in the
is.
spirit. It's not an abstract, you know, I can obtain spirituality that
No.
is out there.
It's really not that hard.
It's not that hard.
It's
Being
not.
spirit.
Yes.
You're not trying to reach some nirvana here.
No, that's right.
Just live a life on a human level.
And
You
small
talk about this
steps.
karma, you know, the small things.
Yes.
You know, don't sweat the big stuff. It's
Right.
And
Yeah.
you know, just reaching inward.
Yeah.
Because we all carry that spiritual within us.
Yes. Yes.
We can't bestow it on someone.
No.
Yeah.
So let's
It's part
use
of you
it.
already.
Let's use it. Thank you, ladies. Well, coming up, we discuss The Secret, and we ask whether the rise of spirituality is a good thing from a religious perspective or not. See you soon. Well, welcome back. We're talking about spirituality tonight. It quite often brings us together as a human race, but it can divide us too, especially when it comes to religion. So the rise of spirituality might be seen as a good thing by some people, but is it seen as a good thing from a religious perspective, when church numbers are dwindling and that sort of thing? Well, Sheena, I'm interested to hear what you have to say about that, and also about the new Pope we have, of course, who's really quite radical and changing things a bit.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts?
I think he is a breath of fresh air. And as for the church numbers dwindling, yes, on the whole they are, but in certain denominations, certain faiths, like the Roman Catholic faith, that is in fact growing. And I can't put it down to Pope Francis, not being a Catholic, I don't really know, but I guess that his down-to-earth kind of spirituality, his ability to talk to every kind of person,
Yes.
and reach their inner core is part of that charismatic papal presence that we're seeing from him
It's
at
a
the moment.
big change, isn't it?
Huge,
He's
yeah.
really, you know, working very hard on that connection with the people,
Absolutely.
with all peoples, yes?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. People of all faiths and none
Yes.
are looking to Pope Francis now to set some kind of, maybe not agenda, but, you know, let's have something here that we can talk about and we can really agree on.
Yes.
And we just think, well, I personally think that he's a real Philip to the Church Universal.
Right. Yes, yes. So probably good in general for all churches, do you think? To
I
see
think
the
so.
Pope.
I think so, to see the Pope,
Yes. Working in that way.
grappling with down-to-earth issues with real people,
Yes.
not getting stuck in abstract dogma, which some people might find really over their heads,
Yes.
but saying,
Yes.
we're into social justice.
Yeah.
We want to see the poor addressed. We want to see poverty annihilated.
And these are real issues.
And real issues.
Yes.
And talking and grieving over people's deaths. And bringing some of the wayward priests and their antics to account.
Yes,
Yes.
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 And what are you thinking, ladies, about the church, the change in the church?
Just want to say,
Yeah, I
Which
think
one?
I think the Pope has made it more accessible.
Yes.
And what I think he's done is he's taken away all of that stereotype of it being very austere and very untouchable. They were untouchable. And I think obviously we've had the Dan Brown books out there, which has caused some controversy in terms of, you know, the Roman Catholic having to be more open about what they actually do. So I think people are maybe looking at, well, what does the house of God, any type of house of God, what has it got to offer? So I think it has made it more accessible.
Great. And accessibility is always a good thing, isn't it? All right. So, well, corporate capitalism has hijacked some aspects of spirituality for its own end, it seems. A few years ago, The Secret, it's a book, encouraged people to manifest wealth beyond their wildest dreams. And the book and the DVD may have accumulated vast riches for the author, but isn't the whole point of spirituality to forego materialism? What do you think, ladies, about this idea of The Secret?
my answer to that. I think it's in a way saddens me that a really important and true concept, if you want, is that energy attracts. You know, I mean, and the concept behind The Secret. You know, if I send out positive thought and energy, you know, it is attracted back to me. That's the principle of it. That's a really good concept, and I believe it, but that it is actually used in a way to gain materialistic kind of wealth. It's sad because, I mean, and as you said, you know, it's kind of, you know, drifted into that direction, which I can't support, really.
It's been distorted, hasn't it? What do you
distorted.
think,
Yeah.
Phyllis?
I think for me, I see lots of clients who try The Secret. And of course, they then become really quite discontented with their own lives.
Do they?
And they do think that by the purchasing of goods or attaining that BMW or having that, you know, gold Rolex or whatever is going to make them happy. But actually, The Secret is in here.
Well, and it's getting back to what I was saying before about giving to feel and to feed the soul, right?
It is.
And do you find that you have to help them get to know that concept?
I do. So we have to then put this wish list or this desire boards or books that they put together to one side and go, well, what actually would owning that BMW actually make you happy? What is it that you're trying to fill the gap? Because there must be a gap in here somewhere.
Yes.
And it may not necessarily be the BMW. It might be something much more simpler that they need to address. So it has created a real divide, I think, and it's a new age concept, this, that you can manifest your dreams. through things, but actually that's not necessarily the case. We can manufacture our life just by being that spiritual being, by enjoying the day-to-day and not waiting for the BMW. It could take a long, long time for that car to appear in your drive.
Yeah.
And you've missed out on your journey in between.
Indeed.
You're not living it day by day.
And even though you were saying, well, you know, it could be something simpler than a BMW, you can almost reverse that and say, well, actually, whatever the problem or the hole or the gap in their life might be, it's something that needs to be investigated.
Yeah, absolutely.
They need to do some work on that. It's not as simple as going out and buying
Buy a car.
something
No.
to make it all okay.
Because the gap's still there.
The gap's
and
still
I think
there.
that is the thing. We have to save ourselves. A bit like me, what I said at the start of the show, becoming that 2-year-old and suddenly missing my father terribly. I had to find that within me. I couldn't go and rent a dad to then say, look, you can take all my issues and my problems and you can deal with all these.
If only life were that simple. So, you know, people, you know, to get a good outcome, you need to work hard at something, don't you?
Absolutely.
But that makes it worthwhile at the end of the day.
It does.
Thank you for talking to me and to each other tonight. It's been fantastic. Thank you to my lovely panel. We have Neil Gwyn, Phyllis and the Reverend Sheena, and you've been watching Loose the Lips. We're back again next week on CTV, or you can join in the conversation on our Facebook page anytime. Good night.